But all right, I'm fired up. All right, here we go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Donut Shop Cop, the podcast. And we are your one-stop destination or donut shop, where we get to talk and rap with cool folks about the captivating world of real estate, sprinkled with the irresistible aroma of freshly baked donuts, which are my favorite because I'm a fat kid at heart and I love freshly baked donuts. Again, I'm your host, Chris, and along with my partner, Andy, we're about to take you on a cool and extraordinary journey. So, Andy, talking about that cool, extraordinary journey, why don't you tell people how we met?
So I was at a donut shop making really bad real estate investment decisions, and I got a tap on my shoulder, and this guy was like, "Hey, I can show you a better way."
Yeah, and I arrested him. I took him out, took him right out. I said, "Let's go."
He did. And so we joined forces and decided that we were going to make a difference in cops' lives and show them how to use their pension, which is really not going anywhere, right? So their pensions in for them in the future and their families, and to make their money work for them, because where they're at right now, that it's not going to work for their families. So we decided to join forces, start Donut Shop Cop, bring people like yourself, Yonah, on, who are experts in your field and can help people that don't really understand what you do, or some of the other guests that we've had on, so that they get an understanding of what you do, and then come back to us, and they can reach out to you if they want, or any of the other guests that we had. But mostly you have a very specific niche, right? So I want to let you talk a little bit about yourself. I'm talking about you because I've been following you for years on LinkedIn, and you do some amazing things on LinkedIn that I want to get to as well. But who is Yonah?
There you go. Well, first of all, I'd like to just thank you and Chris for bringing me on the show. I appreciate it. This is so important, this topic, for anyone out there to understand real estate, but more specifically, people who are looking to get a more of a hold of their retirement, and figuring out how they can increase their wealth by real estate investing. And so who's Yonah? Before we get into the all the details of what we do, Yonah, that's me. I'm a cost segregation expert. I was actually a teacher for about 15 years before I got into real estate. And that a long story in of itself, where I've talked about it quite extensively on other podcasts, including my own podcast, Weiss Advice. Feel free to check that out. And when I got into real estate, it was mainly because I had a crisis in my life, like a health crisis in my family, which really turned into a financial crisis as well, because tons of bills, besides for the student debt that I had, tons of doctor bills that was not covered by insurance, et cetera. And I just needed to make a big change and realize that, although I loved teaching, the salary and it was never going to get me out of the hole, let alone even continue to pay my bills. So I knew I needed to make some sort of a change. And so that's really what kind of inspired me to get into real estate. I was a broker for a little while, did some commercial mortgages, hard money loans, did a lot of different things, did a few fix and flips, until I found this company that I'm part of now, Madison Commercial Real Estate Services, where that was kind of like a springboard for me to get more active in the commercial real estate world. Mm-hmm. And in doing that, as you know, Andy, it really got me involved in doing a lot of networking, right? Mm-hmm. And using social media, specifically LinkedIn, but a lot of other channels as well, to not only get the word out there and really continue doing what I loved doing for a long time, which was teaching, just educating people about this concept, cost segregation, that I do. But what it did was it actually expanded my network, 100-fold, and opened me up to opportunities. And that's such a huge thing. You talked about, you were just talking in the donut shop and, overheard you. And that's what happens when you just talk about real estate. You overhear someone else, or you connect with someone, and that creates a relationship, creates opportunities. And that's really what I'm all about, just seeing where opportunities, present themselves to me and then, take them.
No, and I love that.
I love the fact that you're a teacher too, because my mom was a teacher for almost 30 years, right? And you always say you do what you love, but at the same time, teaching and cop work, unfortunately, they just don't pay, right? Like you don't join those careers to get financially secure, right? You do them to give back, you do them to teach, you do them to do all that stuff. So appreciate the fact that you were a teacher for so many years. So that's cool.
Do not underestimate the power of a teacher.
True story. Because my mom she'd be grabbing my ear right now if I said anything bad about teaching. I went to Catholic school, so I have the ruler scars on my knuckles from the sisters and the nuns. So
so my biggest thing is that I've been following you for years, right? I've done your challenges, which I want to talk about as well, but I don't think that most people understand. I know you get asked this a lot in other podcasts you do, but specifically for people that really don't understand cost segregation, if you can just give them like a high level of what that is and what you do and what value that brings to your property and your finances, right? So I think that would be incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. And the truth is most people don't know what cost segregation is. And even those who do don't really understand it fully. But that's okay. I mean, it's essentially an accounting strategy. Okay. It's an income tax strategy that allows you to create more cash flow from your property, which allows you thereby to reinvest money to kind of scale at a faster rate. So kind of to break it down, cost segregation is just an advanced form of depreciation. And so to take a step back and understand depreciation, you hear this word and actually people misunderstand and think depreciation, okay, it sounds negative. It sounds like property is going down in value when it's really just a borrowed term. Okay. So when it comes to real estate investing, and this was kind of a paradigm shift for me, when I first got into real estate, I remember a good friend of mine explaining a lot of these concepts to me. There's a lot of these terms and a lot of this kind of jargon. And he's like, oh yeah, there's this thing called depreciation. It was the first time I ever really heard about it. And I was like, okay, what is that? Going down in value, depreciation? No, it's just a borrowed term. Okay. The IRS gives you a tax deduction based on the purchase price of your property that you're allowed to write off the entire value of your purchase. Okay. But you do it over a long period of time. So anytime you buy a property besides for your personal residence, if it's an investment or a business property, you're able to literally write off the entire value of that minus the land. The land is a small amount that doesn't depreciate. What that allows you to do is, just get free money, basically. I mean, getting tax deductions every single year for no other reason than that you bought a property. Even though the property is going up in value, it's appreciating in most cases, you're able to take that deduction. And it's, like I said, it's a borrowed term because it's not intrinsic to the property. This deduction starts over every time the property changes hands, which means if you buy a property, you're able to take that tax write-off right away. So that's depreciation. It's a great thing. And anyone who owns residential real estate or commercial real estate, you're aware of this, right? Every accountant knows this, applies this. And it's a small amount because the IRS gives a long lifespan. You can't write off the whole thing in 1 year. You do it over a 27.5 year for residential or 39-year schedule for commercial properties. Now, those are kind of arbitrary numbers, but regardless, in both cases, that's a long time, right? You're just taking a tiny little bit. I mean, it's not tiny. It's about 2 to 3% of the property value every single year as a tax write-off, which is great. But if you're making more than 2 to 3% a year, that means there's a gap between the amount that you're making, your tax liability, right, and the tax deduction that allows you to pay less taxes. So that's depreciation in a nutshell. And as I said, cost segregation is just a fancy, advanced, fancy word, fancy name for an advanced form of that, which allows you to break down the property into different components. And those components depreciate on different schedules than that 27.5 or 39, actually faster, accelerated schedules like 5, 7, 15. And that allows you, like I said, to take some of those deductions and accelerate those deductions, which gets you, like I said, gets you more deductions, which Hopefully he's going to make you, allow you to pay less income tax, which thereby, if you're doing the smart thing, you're going to use that money not to buy a Ferrari, right? But to reinvest, right? Don't buy liabilities, buy assets.
Cool though, Yonah. Ferraris are cool.
Well, they are, don't get me wrong, but use the money, this is rich dad, poor dad 101, right? Use money to invest so that you're in assets, so that those assets can buy that Ferrari and not the other way around.
That's awesome. And so, Yonah, just two questions for you. Actually, just one question, but a little lead into it is, I think real estate's fascinating, right? Because here are two people. I won't include Andy because he's like a guru, but when we're not gurus, we're not coaches, right? But you got someone that had corporate America experience. I left that job to become a cop. And then now we have someone like yourself that was a teacher and left teaching to do what you do, right? And so real estate has so many different niches, right? And so many different ways you can specialize. So what was your journey from teacher to where you are right now? And like, what are some of the horrible things you did in real estate that you'll never do again, and why? And what are the really good things of, like, did your background lend you to cost segregation, or did you just fall into it because of your network?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of questions there. I'll try to kind of sum it up in one, answer them all in one.
That was more than one question, Chris.
I'm a dumb cop, dude. I can't count. Like,
yeah, like only one question. There was like 6 questions in there.
Exactly.
It was a multi-part question, so I'll try to sum it all up in one sentence if I can. No, what I'll do is kind of break it down like this. First of all, any career that you change, anytime you're going to change career, you're going to have challenges, right? You're starting out new. But the one thing that kind of inspired me about real estate was that it did not require any, real formal education to get into it. And number 2, there's really no ceiling. I mean, the potential is unlimited, right? There's not like, corporate ceilings and things like that, where you're kind of, that's your pay. And that's what, the more you put in and the more you hustle, or the more that you, network, really, the greater the results can be. And so that was the biggest epiphany for me, was you can leverage other people's knowledge and other people's experience to get so much faster. And so kind of take about how I got into cost segregation was really because of opportunity, just from networking. It was literally an introduction. I didn't know anything about cost segregation. I knew a lot about real estate. I had been in the industry for a few years, but cost seg was just not something that I had heard about, which was fascinating, because the amazing thing was, as soon as I started or was interested in working for this company, I started asking everyone I knew in the real estate industry if they'd heard of cost seg. And to my surprise, almost no one did. Like, it was like 95% of the people that I asked who were in real estate had even heard of it, let alone utilized. The other 5% used it and knew exactly what it was. And in fact, it was one of my mentors, a guy who had been, a developer for incredible logistic properties, developed like 15 million square feet of, logistics centers. I had asked him, what do you think about this? He's like, oh yeah, cost seg, I use it all the time. I use Madison Specs, in fact. And I was like, okay, that's great. That's, he's like, it's a great company, good people. So I was like, okay, fine. I was sold. But one thing that helped me get faster to there was just networking, was leveraging experience from others. One thing that I did, I'll tell you right now, that I would never do again, is fix and flips. So I was involved in that for a very short period of time, and just hated it. There are several other things I'd probably never do again, but that was one thing that, it was not for me. Like, I did not like dealing with contractors. I did not like dealing with, just doing that. And part of it was that I was remote a little bit, meaning I wasn't hands-on the property. I had a partner who was literally there in the property every single day, and I would, not be there every day, but it just was not something that I was cut out for. So you learn along the way, what you're good at, what you're not good at, and hopefully you'll be directed more in things that you can do and you're better at.
Yep. That's good. That's awesome. Thank you for answering all 15 of my questions too. Pretty impressive. Way more eloquent than I would have done it, by the way.
So I want to get into a little bit about what you do on LinkedIn, because what you do on LinkedIn is you give back so much. You truly do. I mean, you make me rise to the occasion every 6 months, the 10-day challenge, right? So talk about that and how people can get involved in that so that they raise their not level of awareness, but people raise their level of awareness of who they are, because you've helped me do that. And honestly, I haven't been consistent because we're literally under contract on 2 apartments right now that I'm trying to raise capital for. But I'll get back to you. I promise I will. But you give back, so, and then you do your Sunday thing as well, which I was going to post yesterday and didn't. But talk about that, how I just find it that the people that give back, and I think the last 10-day challenge, every 10-day challenge you have, it is about adding something, to adding value, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I know that's 15 questions too.
No, it's okay. It's okay. The point is like this, right? You're absolutely right. Adding value, being what I call a go-giver. And there's actually a book called The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. Highly recommend it. And I was doing it long before I read the book. But the point of the book is, the premise is that, doing altruistically for other people, you're going to get back tenfold what you put in, instead of, being a taker and wanting to, get things and having in mind when you do something for someone else, what am I going to get in return? No, do it because it's a good thing to do, and you'll get back so much more because of that. Not only will you become a better person, that's a whole different discussion, but it gives back in business like tenfold. It's incredible. So when I started on LinkedIn about, I'd say 6 years ago or so, I started posting. I wasn't on social media at all. Literally, I had a LinkedIn account because, everyone had one like 15 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But it was just it was just a place people posted their resumes, and you kind of look for work or whatever, and you connected with. I don't know if you remember back in the day, like you connect with your college friends and people you work with. It was like, recommend so-and-so for, writing and, these skills and things like that. It was kind of a funny, weird place. But then about 6 years ago, after Microsoft acquired LinkedIn, it became more of like a social media, more of a people posting original content. Right. And that, to me, I stumbled upon it by accident, really, because LinkedIn is very much connected with Google in that which is fascinating to me. If you search for someone's name, and I recommend anyone do this right now. Stop if you're driving, pull over first, right? But if you're
Thank you. Appreciate that. Don't text and drive. Definitely don't search for LinkedIn while you're driving. Not good.
Right. But go and put your name into Google. Just search your own name. And unless you have an extremely common name, definitely you're the first, if not on the first page for sure, but probably likely the first result of you searching your name is going to be LinkedIn, which is fast. If you have a LinkedIn profile, that is. So to me, I fell upon LinkedIn by accident because I was, doing some sales, and I was, searching people's names and trying to verify if they're, in this state, if they're, this company, et cetera. And you just Google their name, and LinkedIn kept coming up at the top results. So I'd logged into LinkedIn. Oh yeah, this is that person from this company. So I know it's the right, name, the right phone number, et cetera. And then I was like, why does LinkedIn keep coming up as the result? And I just started playing around and seeing people posting original content. So I started posting original content, just educating people. And that actually very quickly got me connected with someone who invited me to go on my first podcast ever, which was crazy. And he was like, what's a podcast? Right. And I was really nervous at the time, but it was, again, just educating people about this cost segregation thing. And that one led me to another one. It was really a snowball effect to this point, over 400 guest appearances on podcasts, because just of that one, conversation, one thing led to another. And so over the years, LinkedIn had become, since I was posting consistently every single day, I was growing my network, and that was growing business incredibly because the branding was so powerful. When people see your name, what branding means is that when people see your name and your face, they immediately attribute that to something, whatever that is. And so if your tagline, if what it says right under your name is something, the Donut Cop shop, you're going to think of Chris or Andy. When you think of them, you're going to think of the Donut Cop podcast, right? You're going to think of whatever it is that is connected to their name. So for me, it was this cost segregation. And as cost segregation became more popular with the tax reform back in 2017 and the bonus depreciation, people attributed my name to cost segregation because they kept seeing me and my face and my name every single, and right underneath that, it said cost segregation expert. And so that branding was so powerful. So getting back to your question, Andy, doing that over and over and over and seeing the incredible power, I mean, literally growing 8-figure business from LinkedIn, basically. Right.
Right.
Which is incredible. Right. Wow. And in doing that, I was like, okay, this is incredible. No one, and at the time when I started this 10-day challenge, like very few people were actually utilizing it. And so, especially in the commercial real estate space specifically. And so I was like, I want to give back in some way. So I started this 10-day challenge, which essentially is just an accountability group of people. It started out with a small group. Now we have like, 200 people doing this every time I do it, every few months. And what it is just an accountability to get people to post original content and engage on the platform for 10 days straight. Okay. And in doing that, you end up expanding your network. You end up creating, understanding how branding works, understanding how the algorithm works, how to post things, what to post, how to add value, and growing, like I said, growing your network is the biggest part, because I've seen people literally close deals from that, meet brokers, right? Find deals, get jobs. I've literally had people who have, two people specifically from this challenge and from, the networking we're doing.
Wow.
Have meet their partner, their business partner, and meet that I know about. I mean, probably there's a lot more, but these are ones that I know about specifically. They meet their business partner, which ended up turning into, huge businesses and great growth through that. So to me, it's just about paying it forward and giving back. And so that's why I love to do this. And I see every single time, first of all, I meet tons of new people on my own, which is awesome, right? But secondly, I encourage and empower so many other people to do it as well.
No,
That's cool.
that's great. And then you do the Sunday thing, which is awesome as well. And I want to talk about accountability, because that's really what that's about. And I think I don't see a lot of cops on LinkedIn, Chris. So we need to change that paradigm.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because there aren't a lot of cops on LinkedIn, right? And I think it's a combination of a little bit of fear, but at the same time, that anonymity is needed for the safety, right? So
Yeah,
people don't
absolutely.
really realize that, right? That people don't always like us. I mean, the silent majority do. They know that we're needed, but likability is something different. So usually you'll see cops start to amass themselves on LinkedIn once they reach kind of a management position, right? Sometimes you'll see some sergeants, but definitely once you get to a lieutenant and a captain and a chief, right? Then you start to see these problems, because now I'm a businessman, right? So as a lieutenant, I'm running a business. I'm running the police department as a business, right? I'm not out on the street arresting people anymore. So you're right. Cops don't use LinkedIn, man.
Yeah, we got to change that paradigm, I think. And
Yeah.
yeah, we'll get some accountability going. But talking about what you do on your podcast, because and on LinkedIn, is from those challenges, I have met people like Zasha Smith, like Brian Briscoe, like all these people that are just A-list players in this space that have taken my business to another level. And I thank you for that, by the way.
That's awesome.
Because I got to tell you, stretching that muscle is not easy, man. And from what you do in a standpoint of I got to tell you, Chris, I know you haven't done this yet, but you're going to do the next one. I'm going to push your butt to do the next one, because there's not one group. Like, there's so many people there that we have to break out into different groups that you do. And that's amazing. And just the fact that you're devoting all that time, right? And I'm talking about you, Yonah, by the way. So,
a challenge accepted, by the way, because I know you were hinting at me like, hey, dumbass, you need to go do this. So,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm not supposed to swear. I'm supposed to be good. So I apologize, Yonah. But yes, I will take the accountability challenge. The first thing, I literally just was in my phone right now going, when I get home tonight for vacation, look up this 10-day challenge and actually do it. So I will share the results with both of you. I promise.
Definitely do that. So, I know you really got into mentorship and networking a lot, and that's something that we're part of RPM. We're part of Amy's group as well. So I know you talk a lot about networking and mentorship and how valuable that is, and how you can grow your business based on the amount of people that you bring in. And I'm getting to the point, I swear to God, I'm an Italian Jew from New York, so it takes me a minute.
Waiting for it.
Okay, so what is next on the horizon for what's the next big thing for you? Because I know we're at the half hour here. So what's the next big thing, value that you're looking at? Is there any kind of hints, any kind of stuff you got coming up for the next 10-day challenge, maybe, so we can get people like getting started thinking about that? See, I got to the point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The amazing thing is that like I don't really think about like the next big thing, because everything that I try to do and try to do very intentionally is amazing, and I really enjoy the whole process of everything that I do. Between the business, the cost seg business, between the the LinkedIn, the social media, between the podcast, and coming on other podcasts, and like so I just want to continue doing more of that. The one thing that has helped me tremendously, and I intend to continue doing more of this as well, is bringing on more team members, right? More, right? Who's we talked about, I don't know if we talked about this book, but Who Not How has been an incredible book that's really a paradigm shift for me, which was, freeing up tons of my time by having people, hiring people to do things that really I don't need to be spending my time doing, right? Like responding to emails and things like that. And, prepare whatever, all kinds of different, kind of busy work. So big thing for me is really just spending more time focusing on those things that I love, which allows me to have more time to invest, more time to look at deals as well, which, obviously I've done over the years and continue to do more of that.
So, okay.
That's awesome that you just led into that, because my question is going to be brief, Andy, so please take note. And it'll be only one question, Yonah. So what do you invest in? So what's your personal investment strategy, right? You help with cost segregation, obviously. What do you invest with, and what do you look for as an investment for you?
So what I look for in investment, more importantly than anything else, is I have done a few just kind of personal own investments, but most of it is investing in partnerships and with other groups who are experienced. So that's the biggest thing I look for, is not just that the deal itself is great, but that the people running it are great. Not just great people, but are very experienced, et cetera. So in real estate, the asset classes that I have invested in and will continue to invest in are multifamily, which is awesome if it's done right, self-storage, mobile home parks, RV parks, which are two very, very interesting asset classes. Mobile home parks are manufactured housing communities, as they're more called now, more affordable housing. Great option if done right. It can be an incredible opportunity for investment, but also to impact communities, really to make a big change in these communities that are in many cases, not always, but in many cases kind of have a stigma to it. And that's, making a change in that realm.
Yeah.
Invested in some other businesses as well, but those are the main things in real estate. I'm open to other options. I've in fact invested in one retail deal, but I'm much more focused on the things that I understand better. And, multifamily is really simple. Self-storage, really pretty simple. So yeah, I'll keep going in that direction.
Okay, I do have one more question. I know we're at the bottom of the hour, but I had one more question. So the silver tsunami's coming, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's talking about how people of that age are holding on to their homes, so there's not enough homes. I think for some people, what's coming up is for me and my wife, right? And I don't know if you're into this world or not, but we're looking at residential assisted living as an opportunity to change that paradigm, because the silver tsunami's coming, right? So have you come across anything like that in your talks, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Assisted living, all these different things. You're absolutely right. The silver tsunami is coming. We actually had on our podcast, Vinny Chopra, who's very much involved in that space, who talked a lot about the silver. It was the first time I ever heard that a few years ago, that term, but you're absolutely right. I mean, there's huge demand. The really difficult part in that asset class is that it's very labor intensive. I mean, it's running a business, and it's a very different than just, apartments, right? You're renting, renting deals. You have to run a business, but it can be extremely lucrative if done right, because, obviously the demand is so high, and, to live in these facilities is, an arm and a leg, but there's a lot of insurance and things like that cover it. So, if done right, you can really make a lot of money.
Yeah, I wanted your opinion on that as well, because I think that's another place we can direct some of these young cops, right? Because it is, if it's done right, it can really make a difference in the family's life as well, right? It's not just about you bringing in money. It's really about you making a difference in somebody else's life. But at the same time, you can be selfish and change your life by helping other people, right? That's really the goal here. So on the next challenge, I'm going to be talking about being selfish, by the way, Yonah.
You're always selfish.
And by being
What's going to
selfish,
change?
though, because I just heard this great comment about by being selfish, you're not really being selfish, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a different paradigm shift about how you think. That's what I want. That's the next thing I'm doing.
It's about not, so I would kind of reframe it from selfish, which does have a little bit of a bad connotation, to just kind of focusing on, taking care of your needs before others. Oftentimes we look out for other people, or we're dealing with all kinds of things and kind of neglecting our own needs, and that can really be a big difference. So I would reframe it, but yeah, I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm gonna reframe it. So
I tell folks the same thing a lot of times, because I lived that life, right, where I had a prior job where I was just miserable in my job, right, and that's the catapult that landed me in my current career, which I absolutely love. I have a passion for, helping people and just service in general. But if you're not healthy at home, you are not healthy at work. And if you're not healthy at work, you're not healthy at home. I've never met anybody that's grumpy at work that isn't grumpy at home, right? And I've never met anybody that's grumpy at home that is happy at work. So they go hand in hand, right? So that whole work-life balance thing, yeah, I get it, but you have to be you first, right? You have to be genuine with who you are before you can be genuine with anybody else in whatever it is you do. And I'm a big believer in that. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up. But I want
to wait.
Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Wait, was that a question? I missed
yeah,
that.
No, not yet. It's coming. So here we are, Yonah. You and I, we're strolling the streets of New York, and we walk into a donut store.
Oh yeah.
What am I buying you right now? What am I buying you?
Oh, you know what? I haven't had it in a long time. First of all, I apologize in advance. I'm not a big donut fan. Haven't had them for a long time.
Well, hopefully you're a fan of the show.
But yeah, no, of course. You know what I liked when I was a kid? I just remember there's this thing called the bear claw. You remember that? The bear claw? That was great.
Yeah. All right. I can go with that. My wife loves the bear claw. That's her go-to. My wife will get a bear claw all day long. Either that or an apple fritter, one of the two. I always confuse them.
They're very similar, right? They're very similar.
They are. Andy, what is it today, buddy?
I'm gonna go with that. I know it's not a donut, but I'm gonna go with. I said Yonah's setting the pace for something different. I'm gonna go with apple turnover.
Apple turnover.
All
right. I'm going with pink sprinkles. That's what we're doing. Pink candy sprinkles. So we're going with chocolate donut, chocolate frosting, but we're going with pink sprinkles today.
All right. So let's wrap this up. So where can people find you, Yonah, besides LinkedIn? And I mean, we'll put it in the bio and we'll send you the video as well. But where can people find you? Can I ask when the next challenge is? Do you know?
We'll probably the end of October. I try to do it once a quarter. So we just finished one up in July, which means probably doing the next one October time. So yeah, that's the plan. Nothing scheduled. I'm going to the Bigger Pockets conference at the beginning of October, so it's likely going to be after that.
Cool. Okay.
So where can people find me? Yeah, LinkedIn, we talked about all day long. You definitely do that, but make sure if you do connect with me, don't just hit the follow button. It's really different. A lot of people hit that follow button and you don't really know who's who. Hit the connect button. It takes another 2 seconds to just hit the 3 dots, hit that connect button, and write a little message saying you saw me on the Donut Cob Shop show. I would love to connect with everyone. And if you're not on LinkedIn, that's okay. You can find me on any other social media platforms as well, Yonah Weiss, or go to yonahweiss.com.
All righty. So,
well, Yonah, thank you. It was great meeting you, Yonah. And I'm excited to go do my own 10-day challenge. So I'm going to research you today. I'm actually going to research you. I've already done that. I'm going to research the 10-day challenge because my which way is he? He's over that way. My partner in crime.
To
over
you
there,
that way. To me, you're.
Yeah. He's calling me out today, so I will make that happen. So
I am calling you out. So thank you so much for. I know we had to reschedule once, and I appreciate that. So thank you so much for rescheduling and being here today. And yeah, take us out, brother.
You got it. Well, this is how we always end it, Yonah, because again, I'm a fat kid and I'm just a dumb cop on this piece. So I tell everybody, remember, stay safe, stay curious, and never underestimate the power of one good donut. And with that, my friends, we are, in what I say in my industry, is we are 10-10. We are out of service and I'll see you back at the barn.